All wonderful, all wonderful. I'm back, friends, and better than ever. I completed my cactus soup, also called San Pedro tea. I've got about 1 and 2/3 cups. No, I'm sorry, about 1 1/4 cup of tea here, and an equivalent amount in this second dose. Rachel decided not to take it tonight, but just as well lets me check the dosage. So, I'll make a video eventually out of all the little clips I've done today showing the steps of the process. But I guess that means I should make a video right now of me drinking it. So I will. We'll see how it tastes. Supposedly it's terribly bitter, but I'm sure I can choke it down. Here we go. Yeah, it's not good. But I can choke it down. It tastes like yucky. Okay, so I just drank what's broadly considered to be the appropriate amount of fluid to drink if you reduce it to that much. I may have, well, we will find out what it feels like in full hopefully tonight. I tried it the other night and I've never done mescaline before. And it was kind of a slowing down kind of a trip, kind of DMT-ish in that regard, but it's probably misleading to say it's like DMT, but like DMT tends to make me talk like this, and mescaline did a little bit of that the other night. So we'll see how it plays out tonight. So I believe if my guesstimations and such were approximately right, that I should have just ingested twice as much mescaline as I did the other night. Which is what I concluded from the other night, which is I needed to ingest twice as much. It should have been twice as much. If after, if I don't feel it kicking in within an hour or so, I may end up drinking the other dosage of it. I'm a little concerned about yeah. I mean, the thing is, I'm a pretty experienced head, so I'm not worried about tripping too hard in general. And mescaline doesn't seem like the kind of trip that gets too fireworky. It's kind of a slow, what I've read about it is expect to spend an hour looking at one leaf. It's kind of that kind of experience, but we will find out. All right. This is a indica heavy hybrid called LA Rouge. I generally don't get sativas, like straight up sativas. I'll get an occasional sativa heavy hybrid, but the reason is not that I don't like sativas, just that it seems like a lot of them have been bred for smell or taste rather than for getting high, you know? Well, I mean, I don't know if it's I'm trying to escape myself, entertain myself, some sort of head change. I'm just somebody who likes a head change. I'm accustomed to it, I guess. I don't feel trapped in myself, but I do feel like I want some feeny. I feel feeny sometimes. But at the end of the day, I just keep in mind the important message of this button. Just say no. To what? To everything. All I know. Make a good point, Tiffany. Make a real good point there. I found this button in the top drawer of my dad's dresser. He no doubt got it one time in his role as like a school principal or something and just stuck it in his drawer when he got home. He had never finished cleaning out the top drawer of his dresser in the master bedroom. So I was digging through there for things to make shorts with. There. I'm traveling through at the space between. It's still turning, huh? And it's because it's stretched about as far as it can stretch from the laptop. So, commercial about the dog speaking to someone, I said I want that. Well, I mean, that's the thing about all that, those anti-drug things when I was a kid. And, you know, Space Between is the same age as me, basically. Is all those stories about drugs by the cops or whoever came in to talk to us, it all sounded like magic potions to me, you know? Yeah, I'm sure it is. I mean, next to it was a Census 86 button. Because my dad was a regional director of the U.S. Census during 1986. And this was, you know, before and after the census, he was working for the county. He sort of arranged it with the county that he could take a year off to work for the U.S. Census, or maybe the U.S. government and the county government have some sort of, I'm not sure how it worked out, but before and after directing the census in '86, he was with LA County Schools as like an administrator, principal, or like a assistant superintendent, like shit like that. So, the stuff in the top drawer, it can be very old sometimes. And this was in there. So we'll see if my second attempt at taking mescaline via San Pedro cactus goes a little bit more heavy than my first one. I drank this much liquid. This is the other half of it. It's in this bottle, so it just goes up to here in the bottle. That much. Feeling is thinking? Oh, not really. You can think about your feelings, though, if you want. Your feelings will naturally express as words, probably, if you're trying to convey them to somebody. or trying to talk through them or whatever. But no, they're definitely distinct things. Like, laughter is not a form of thought. Crying is not a form of thought. Yeah, we found her. And then I went there and I didn't have my vaccination card with me, so they wouldn't let me in. I couldn't find it, and I still need to look for it because I took it with me to go to the YouTube party that time. Prior to which, Rachel's and mine had both been in Rachel's coin purse. Rachel was in charge of them, but I must have not given it back to her after that. I have a good, cross my fingers, hope it's there idea of where it might be, but I haven't bothered to look yet because it was just like, ugh. Delilah went. She was able to go. I actually took a COVID test today and tested negative, so. Well, for my money, Falco's Dear Commissar video is the ultimate pinnacle of cool at that moment in time. I mean, my dad's got it really bad right now. He's really feeling sick. He's feeling more sick than he did the first time he got it earlier this month. I don't think I really got a swag bag. I may have bailed without one. I didn't really think about it. I did just RSVP to another YouTube party. So first it said in the shorts, first it was in the shorts newsletter saying if you live in Los Angeles, or we won't get you a plane ticket or anything, but there's a meet and greet in Los Angeles on August whatever. But then I additionally got an email explicitly inviting me. So I RSVP'd. I still might not get in. It says you're not guaranteed to get in. But I think my recent burst of activity on Mindy's Club may have gotten me invited or something, or may have had a role in that. If you don't see Eric as an ENTP, well, I guess what you're asking there is if you don't intuit that I have myself typed correctly, or if you intuit something else, right? I don't think it makes you anything necessarily, except wrong, but, Well, of course we've all been vaccinated because there was a period when my mom was in the nursing home where we couldn't visit her unless we were vaccinated. And my dad doesn't have an ego. He's not egotistical. He's just a badass, It's always been. So yeah, it is though weird when he's suddenly weak. He's not egotistical. He's much too practical to ever be egotistical. And he hates it when I try to praise him. He doesn't like that at all. So, I mean, obviously the vaccine didn't work, but you still have to have been vaccinated to go to the hospital for some reason. I mean, to me, that's malarkey, but whatever. What? Like, why? You know? I, I've never quite tested positive for, um, I never tested positive for COVID. I took a test today and tested negative, but I believe, I'm absolutely certain I've had it this last month. Uh, I had, it was a weird cold. It was like weeks of low grade fever and super low energy and meow, meow, meow. And I still feel somewhat changed by it in terms of my energy levels and rhythms and such. And we'll see how long that lasts. But I'm mostly interested in seeing how this mescaline plays out tonight. Yes, I do feel not quite as well. I mean, depends what you mean by sharp. I feel, I feel more controlled, less, less out of control, less flying by the seat of my pants. Um, and more like a sensor, I think. More planning out my day with small things and following through on those. I think it's an improvement. I feel like it kind of fixed my ADHD, I guess. It makes me realize, oh, I guess I am pretty ADHD, if it means anything. Yeah, I watched that video. I actually, I seriously consider doing it. Um, what would really make me happy is if my dad would do mushrooms with me. But if he doesn't, and this particular dose of mescaline works, then I could always offer him the other dose. What's making that noise? I need to go check this out. There's just a bird. It's got a weirdly metallic sounding tweet that made me wonder if maybe like a fan blade on the air conditioner had broken or something. But no, it wasn't. What's it like being an NE-DOM? I think I might be one. I mean, I could only really tell you what it's like being an ENTP. I don't know what it's like being an ENFP. They're different than ENTPs in a lot of ways. While at the same time, they can demonstrate exactly the same kind of fun. Um, fun NE, you know, as long as you're just playing Swords and Dragons, ENFPs and ENTPs can look remarkably similar. I mean, I don't have any problem with it, really. I just see her as indicative of an example of a kind of problem. So for those of you not in Florida because you have FE, here's what you do. Monoclonal vitamin D and zinc to fix your balls. There's nothing wrong with my balls. Which MBTI type will do well in stock trading and stuff? ENTJs typically do quite well. INTJs. Those are the best two types for that. ESTJs will do fine as well. It's just probably less, they're probably a little less speculative in their strategies. A little more straight ahead by the book in terms of their investments. Diversify, big companies, slow growth. Trust the market to continue to grow over time. Be in it for the long haul. That's kind of ESTJ investment strategy, you know. I see you're up to your normal games there. Well, congratulations to you. What are these birds? Well, that's not true. LT. ENFJ and INFJ are both SE first front stack. So are INTJ and ENTJ. That's very SE polar of you. It's a different kind of intuition, you know. We don't really have intuition conscious. We've got extroverted intuition, which is very closely linked to introverted intuition, but is not really a form of intuition, not as we normally mean the word. Normally, intuition is a form of knowing, whereas extroverted intuition relies upon that form of knowing to say interesting things or amusing things or whatever, but it's not a form of knowing, it's a form of creating. So NE people like INFPs, ENFPs, ENTPs, INTPs are creatively intuitive, whereas NI users, INTJs, ENTJs, INFJs, INFPs, INFJs, ENFJs, and INTJs, ENTJs. Yeah, those four intuitive types have intuition in a knowing sense in the conscious stack and use it accordingly. Well, I mean, did I say accordingly? I don't know. I mean, well, since they have introverted intuition, accordingly they are actually intuiting and knowing with intuition as opposed to extroverted intuition, which really isn't a form of intuition per se. It's a form of creativity that is not a form of knowing. It's a form of action. So, well, Porn Lover 99, Porn Love 99, you look stern today, as though about to scold a young secretary for her innocent mistake, taking out your own anger, this poor workmate. That's what you look like today. Now we've exchanged our thoughts about what each other looks like. Wasn't that wonderful? I love exchanging thoughts. So, I do have a feeling that this is going to be a more substantial experience already. I can sort of feel it have a pre-head or something, you know? You could live forever. Well, no, probably not forever, but I would like to live indefinitely. That's what I would prefer. If I had my wish, it would be to live indefinitely, not forever. Which means to live until I say I'm done living. But with that, I have to stop aging at some point. If you just kept aging, then you might be alive at 400 years old, but you'd be, oh, you know? Not eternal life. If you're going to live forever, if you're immortal, cannot die, then, you know, based on what all the vampire stories say, you get sick of being alive at some point, and you long for death eventually. Because you go through too many cycles of everyone you love getting close to people and then them growing old and dying, and yeah. I don't have any feelings about it at all. We've got some real provocateurs here tonight, huh? I don't know. I don't know what or if, you know. Well, I guess sock puppets and so forth bring up the numbers regardless. Life's a funny thing. You know, your generation, there's a pattern to a generation's experience of death, right? You have a couple of maybe accidental deaths or even worse, SUICIDs, when around you when you're maybe a teenager or something. Maybe you got some old people die. But then you get into your 20s and basically your generational group or whatever is pretty stably alive. So you're not going to see a lot of your classmates and so forth start dying until you hit around 50, when the first one or two of the early deaths is not really that young, you know. And then it'll gradually increase. And then, you know, where my dad is right now, where he's got his friends Richard and Alan, who are, Richard's especially increasingly not healthy enough to be my dad's friend really effectively anymore. Although he doesn't have dementia, but they can't do things and he's not feeling well, you know, and he was always friends with that guy's wife, kind of through his wife. So I don't think Ellen and my dad, I don't think Ellen and my dad really have a lot of connection there. Although he does plan to go up there and be with her when Richard passes. Yeah, I have no idea, guys. I don't care. I don't pay attention to that stuff. Oh yeah, it's good. We found my mom. So we also had the hilariously morbid experience of having to explain that no, she's not dead. We lost my mom. Yeah. So my dad's feeling really sick right now, physically, from the COVID. I've not seen him so laid out by anything sickness wise in years, decades, since like his 60s probably. It's not that he's super congested or anything, but he's feverish. He slept for most of the last 24 hours, and he's very unaccustomed to being laid out by any kind of sickness. He just punches straight through whatever. I mean, everybody handles reality, ultimately. It's not a matter of whether, but how, right? You know, today is kind of a heavy day, also because Ben Scully died, and Ben Scully, for an SI person like me, SI front stack, the threads that connect your childhood to your current adult state are important, even if you don't attend a lot. If you're a fourth slot, as I don't attend a lot to sustaining them. I find them important, and I mean, he's made himself dinner. I offered to make him food, but he didn't want me to make it. He wanted to make it himself. So I've asked him multiple times until he got bugged by it if I could do anything to help or if he needed anything. And then he looked at me like, will you stop this shit? So, you know, he's taking, I offered him chlorotrimazole, I offered him Tylenol, he's got Advil, etc. My pain, where does it go? Well, I don't spend a lot of time experiencing pain, really, emotional pain. Um, like the most emotionally challenging thing I've experienced. Well, it's two things. At the moment when it happened, the most emotionally challenging thing that I dealt with was when I discovered my first wife had been cheating on me, and I discovered this by pushing play on the answer machine, and like it was back in the day of landlines, right? So we had a regular old answer machine, and it I I pushed play, but what had happened is she had picked up like on the last ring, but it had already started recording, and so it recorded her conversation with this guy, and that was very traumatic, extremely traumatic. But it didn't have any lasting pain. I don't feel any pain about it now, and I haven't for years, right? On the other hand, the death of Lacey is the other thing that I consider pain, um, and and that one still hurts. That still hurts. But it's not. It's a dull ache. It's an ache, and it's also a connecting thing between my daughter and me. We're both prone to bursting into tears when Lacey even gets mentioned, even years after her death. I still get choked up just talking about her. But I don't spend much time in that pain, hardly any. Uh, it's likely to come up briefly right there, like when asked about it. Um, Yesterday, I was feeling emotions, and then I got on to. I mean, it's a tough line to walk space between. As far as I don't see him as. I mean, I'm not worried about how I see him. I'm not going to see him as anything other than I have nothing but respect and I respect, love, and obey my father with good reason. You know, he's been a wonderful father and continues to be, and he's a great man. So you don't got to worry about how I perceive him at all. My perceptions aren't usually are almost never the issue. Uh, well, it wasn't such a terrible thing to have happened. It was sort of unavoidable, inevitable that it would happen to me because I'm FI Polar's first relationship can be really terrible choices. Um, I've seen Isaiah Rude make similarly bad choices with women, and you can't say anything to him either. It's like we won't listen. But anyway, um, so I don't spend much time in pain, emotional pain. I do. I do sometimes feel more down or blue or something, more serious or frustrated with myself. Right now, I feel very relaxed. I feel like not tense. I think the reason is because this whole experience, my dad telling me he's battling depression, um, my mom being admitted to the hospital, and then and then her being missing in action. It's like I wasn't stressed out about it at all. I knew we'd find her, but um, my my dad was really stressed and wanted resolution right now. You know, you've dealt with something similar. It's nice to be shown compassion and maybe remember their past and why they are hard to begin with, rather than finding themselves with daddy's money. I mean, yeah, I, I would not say I particularly went through a finding myself phase. I until three and a half years ago or something. I was, you might well call me a workaholic, you know. I was spending all my time at work. Had a job and shit. I guess more like 5 years ago it was like that. But there was kind of this transition of phasing down. But, um, but it's nice to be back home. And now I feel, I guess the reason I feel so, relaxed. What are you talking about? I don't even know what you're talking about, Space Between. You're just blowing smoke out your ass. Please don't. There's no reason to. You know, it's possible to have a real conversation with me, like anybody else. You don't have to come here pretending. I'm not out to embarrass you or anybody else. Make you feel bad or anything like that. Actually, the change in environment impact you? Well, I would say only if the current environment is uncomfortable. Well, I mean, yeah, obviously getting into bed is very much a change of environment, and it does impact me a lot. And also taking a bath is a change of environment. I call it an SI reset. So yeah, it does. And then eating when I'm hungry makes a big difference, and drinking liquids when I'm thirsty helps, you know, to prevent headaches, things like that. I don't think you're pretending. I intuit it. So, as Steve Martin once said, beginning of a comedy set after humming and hawing a bit, just waiting for the drugs to take effect. And we'll see how it goes then. It seems like mescaline's pretty chill. Like, makes you ultra peaceful rather than like bonkers. But we'll find out. I'll be pretty frustrated this time if I don't get an adequate dosage. But I'm hesitant to take. Based on my calculations, it's hard to say. Regardless, I believe myself to have been taking right now twice as much as I took the other night. And I'm hopeful that that's going to give me a good, hard mescaline trip. But if I were really committed to going full blast and not being disappointed, I would drink the other half of this shit, you know. Does NI4s have a tendency to overestimate their NI? Well, I think they have a tendency to use it to do things. So they know in order to well, I mean, the thing is, NI4 plays out a lot differently in an ESTP than it does in an ESFP, I suspect. Yeah, man, be careful with tips on growing, etc. I don't have any tips on growing. I mean, you know, this channel already has a strike against it. It's permanent strike for bullying C.S. Joseph. So this is my place where I meet with my friends and we chat about things. Sometimes we talk cognitive function, sometimes not. And it's also a place where I deal with you. Does what really? Do do I really have a strike for bullying C.S. Joseph? Yes, I do. Well, Alec T, I think that might be a little dependent on whether you're FE or FI. But, but note this as well. One of the best drummers I've ever played with was a former student of mine, Nick Janislani. He was an ESTP, and his NI was stellar when it came to determining what the right beat for the song was. No, not you, I'm Moxie. You're fine. No, dealing nobody is troublesome tonight. I'm not feeling easily troubled by things. Uh, you know, petty, petty little shit is just whatever. It's not gonna bother me. I feel like I definitely feel a head change coming on. I drank it at the beginning of this, and it's 40 minutes in. I'm definitely feeling a head change coming on. I think this is gonna definitely be stronger than last time, but we'll find out. I don't know what dramas you're talking about, Space Between. I don't believe I'm involved in any YouTube dramas. What is he up to? I don't know. What's who up to? Uh, I mean, I get involved with dramas because I have opinions about things, and people say things about me, and sometimes I respond, or I say shit about people and piss them off, or whatever, you know. But I just keep saying my opinions anyway. I'm not really worried about them. I make videos about all kinds of things. That's one of the beautiful things about my channel is nobody can accuse me of being into drama or talking too much about this person or that person or the other person or whatever. Everybody's equally unimportant to me. They might be the subject of interest for the moment, but I've got hours and hours and hours of. Yeah, exactly. That's why you're still here. That's why I haven't just booted your ass. I don't give a fuck. I mean, you know, it's like sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Right now, I don't. If I did, I'd boot your ass. Got you. I got you, you fly. I don't like flies. Flies and I are not friends. We are. Hey, Tiffany. I've been. I've been growing. I've been growing. I don't want to ask about that stuff once in a while. I did nominate myself for Streamies today. Being in the in group, you get like prompted to do shit that other people could do, I think, but they don't necessarily get the link in an email like I did, you know. So I don't know if spread thin like the last bit of peanut butter in the jar when you're making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Taking on too much task. I'm taking on too much task. Of course, I could drink that second cup of mescaline and be extra sure I get enough tripping, but it's sketchy, right? It's like, what if I do that extra one and then it's too much, and I'm just like, too mescalined out. I've never really heard about somebody having too hard of a mescaline trip, but not many people do it. Yeah, I am. No, I don't want to do that space between. You suggested that before. I would rather not. I say no with my knowing finger. And that's N-O apostrophe I-N-G. You know what Tiffany thinks? She's thinking that she might want to update Kevin's name. Yes, it's true. Crazy though it makes sense. Come here, Kevin. I guess that's why they call it beef stew. Well, is everybody okay? Did anybody hurt yourself in the fall? Do we have any injuries? Gosh, I hope not. Is everybody okay? Was anybody injured? Okay, so maybe you can play too. How? By me turning this camera around so you can see what I'm doing instead of me. What I'm doing is better than me. Me's kind of shitty, but what I'm doing is fantastic. Oh yes, oh yes. So true, so true. And you and me and you and you, we love each other evermore. Every day, there's more in store. More love from me, more love to you. More reasons to have to go poo. Hi, hello, that's why it's happening. I'm here. It seems like it'd be really cool to have a bunch of online friends and you don't know what many of them look like, but you still have a general concept of how each person expresses their being and you get to interact with them. Yeah, it is pretty cool. And it's something that I sometimes take for granted because it took a long time to build up. I spent a lot of time at the beginning of my YouTubing trying to find people to come talk with me. I was much more interested in having conversations and making videos with other people. And spent a lot of time waiting for nobody to show up. It takes a certain amount of don't give a fuck to deal with that. It is different, Tiffany. Look, the people that I meet in real life from the channel, and there have been a fair number of them, have a certain special status in my mind. But that's not the only kind of special status you can get, I don't need to worry about this glare in this camera. That's not the camera that's going to be recording them. So, here's the thing. Tiffany's determined there's a problem. And she's right, of course, as she always is. I'm really kind of wondering if I should take the other mescaline. I don't want to be disappointed. You know, I don't want to be disappointed. But it's only been less than an hour. Well, I made... I don't know. It's hard to say exactly, you know. I made tea, and I believe I got a lot more green stuff than I did yesterday. More than twice, I mean, the other day ago. Way more than twice as much. Probably a good 4 times as much. And this is half of that dosage. So I should be taking twice as much as I did last time. But I did it in a different format last time, so it's hard to say, you know. Last time, it was, I ate the cactus itself. But it gives you the runs, and it's a lot of cactus to eat. This time I made the distillation, the tea. So, I don't know. It's almost an hour. I think at 1 hour, I might, well, check my head, and maybe I will drink the rest of this. I don't know. Sometimes when you are typing people, I think, wow, that must be so interesting to get to analyze people and tell them an unchanging truth about themselves. Then I realize you always do it, so I'm assuming you don't feel the newness and excitement of it anymore. I don't perceive it like that. That sounds like an instrumental kind of appreciation of NI, maybe. I'm not sure. Thanks, Tiffany. Sometimes it seems like you're just going through the motions, and I feel bad for you because you seem discontent. What happens to the brain when one smokes weed and takes mescaline? I doubt the weed would do anything. I mean, like I said, weed doesn't really do anything to me anymore. Well, see you later. Thanks for stopping in, Tiffany. Old friend of the channel. Made the original tech for the raw room, which was a room that recorded everybody who was in there and uploaded it automatically and uploaded it to YouTube in like 15-minute chunks or whatever. Pretty cool. That was pretty cool. Covered, it turns out your nerve needs some adjusting. Kevin is your adjustment. My name's Randy. But the hardest part of doing this is making Tiffany stand up. Easy, boy. Any more around here, we might have to get you gelded. Come on. Oh, if you're got tall, Randy, we'll make you into a gelding. Okay. So that's a good short right there. That's a good short. I have to edit it into a short, but it's the first in a sequence of shorts about why she's going to change his name again, which is to say, she's determined that Kevin's not enough of a racehorse name. Like if I drink the rest of this right now, is it too late? Since it's an hour after I drank the first half of it? I'm not feeling much or anything, but it supposedly has a really slow come on. But, I don't know, usually if you take a high dose, it doesn't take so long to come on, but... Tough call. Tough call. It seemed very strong. I think I'll take the rest of it. I don't really feel much of anything right now, anyway. Okay, so. Come on. Tarzan, your name needs some adjusting. Tarzan, your name needs some adjusting. Some adjusting. Your name. The editing process helps me to remove the extra words that I don't need.
Kevin is your adjustment. My name's Rand. Kevin is your adjustment. My name's Randy.
I'm gonna have to actually make this go like this.
Tarzan. Randy. My name's Randy.
Let's get that.
My name's Randy. My name's Randy.
That's about one.
My name's Randy.
1.7.
Randy. My name's Randy.
1.6.
Randy. My name's Randy.
I'm kind of getting a little bit of a plaque at the end, but whatever.
Oh, if you're got tall, Randy, we'll make you into a gelding. Oh, if you're got tall, Randy, we'll make you into a gelding.
There, that's all you need in that joke, right?
Your name needs some adjusting. My name's Randy. Oh, if you're got tall, Randy, we'll make you into a gelding. Your name needs some adjusting. My name's Randy. Oh, if you're got tall, Randy, we'll make you into a gelding.
The dangers of being Randy. So anyway, Tiffany's concluded that Kevin doesn't have a racehorse name. So she decided to rename him Famangelo Kevin. Famangelo being spelled F''M''Angelo. So anyway, Colin, the problem with your name The fancy racehorses have fancy names. Things like hot air balloon. That's why I'm naming you now from Angelo Common. F apostrophe M apostrophe Angelo Common. There. So I don't know. I guess I'm gonna take the rest of this stuff, just because. Has it been an hour yet? Yeah, it's been an hour and a minute. I wonder if it's too late to take another meow of it, but I'm hopeful it's not. Is it too late to take another meow of it? I'm hopeful it's not. Cause if it's too late to take another meow of it, then I'm hopeful it's not. Okay. I wonder if a person's proneness to metacognition depends on type, or otherwise more or less metacognition of the person correlates strongly with certain types. Well, it's hard to say we can know right now, because we just now have really developed the right map to metacognate using. I mean, metacognition is always groping blindly at one part of the elephant until you have a good cognitive function, or at least an intentional map, right? So it says, like, what exactly are we measuring people's cognition in terms of? What's the commonality, and where are the divisions and why? That needs to be articulated before you can really do metacognition properly. And that's what cognitive functions does. Alright, I guess I'm going to drink this rest of this. It's kind of nasty. Hopefully, by drinking all of this, I will get a satisfactory large mescaline trip. It's not really that bad. Tastes like freaking blended up grass, kind of, but with a meowy, bittery kind of meow taste to it. It's not that bad. It's easier to choke down than mushrooms. Actually, there's something it tastes like, but I can't quite name what it is. Mushrooms taste like gross, moldy dirt. When you and someone you're with had the same thought at the exact same time, what happened? Probably we both NI'd something obvious. Or sort of obvious. The thing is, if it's too obvious, then you're not even going to notice that you had the exact same thought. You're not going to make note of it. To make note of it at all, you have to communicate with the other person, right? One person does. Alright, down the hatch. So I did a whole thing of this now. Tastes like gravy a little bit. That's what it tastes like. Tastes like gross ass freaking Thanksgiving gravy. So, we'll find out soon enough whether this mescaline really does its mescaline chores at an adequate level to make me go, cool. You know, it made me feel like I really tripped. Because I did read this article that says, like, the dangers of not doing enough mescaline. That you'll be disappointed that a moment while it's happening seems as though it's already happened. Would that be deja vu, right? Well, I don't know what that is. It seemed to be a SI misfire of some kind. You know? Eliana Diaz says the effects of the liquid is like LSD. Well, it's in the same category of drugs, a psychedelic drug, but mescaline is the drug that's in peyote. It's also in San Pedro cactuses, and you know. It's super Native American, alright? This isn't like your Western drugs, okay? This is from the earth. This is indigenous. I like how you said, everyone is equally unimportant to me. I should be told to everyone who thinks that people are looking at them or thinking about them constantly. In reality, everyone is way too concerned with themselves to give too much of a shit about what you're doing. I mean, and ultimately, people only have a certain amount of time to direct to various things in their life. Sometimes people want to spend their time talking to other people. Sometimes people want to spend their time consuming media. Sometimes people want to spend their time doing this kind of hybrid thing here where you guys are talking to me, but you're making media, but you're also consuming it. It depends how interfacey you are, I guess, or actiony, as to whether you put a lot of stuff in the chat or if you just listen. Yeah, I'm slowing down here, huh? Like, I noticed that the last time I did it was that it was slow. I like to get up there at night all alone with a head full of mescaline and just roll around in the sky like a big condor. Hunter S. Thompson was a good writer. He had a knack for a good turn of phrase, you know. Hello again, Boba Fett. So, I ended up drinking it all. I made what I thought was 2 doses, each which was twice as strong as the one I took the other night. But I began to lose faith in the first cup worth of it, so I just took the other cup worth of it. So, if in fact I'm correct about my perceptions of how much more it is than last time, then I should have just taken 4 times as much as last time. Yep. Will that turn out to be the case? I don't know. The TI conscious are not feelers. That question prompted me to ask, to say it. TI conscious are not feelers? Well, what about FE DOMs and FE tool users? I agree with you though, basically. They're not FI users. It's very different, FI and FE. You know, I can understand why they group them together, but it's not really, it's misleading. Well, they're social system knowers, you know? Yeah, I read that and answered it, actually. Which is, you both intuited the same intuition from the same, broadly the same data, you know? FE and FI are drastically different. They're as drastically different as drastically different. Drastically different was a British actress from the 1890s who sang and danced her way across the stages of Europe. But when the advent of silent films came, she failed because she was camera shy. So, like I said, we'll find out what happens with the old mescaroo. Meskaluka luka luka, as they say in Hawaiian. To make any word Hawaiian, you need to just add luka 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 to the end of it. I wonder if they use mescaline for cleansing rituals. I mean, like the day when you finally break down and clean the toilet and the bathroom floor and stuff. Oh. You mean Indian shit. Yeah, Indians use it for Indian shit, but Indians always use it for Indian shit. You get what I meant, Bubba. Stop TI scrutinizing me. Boy, Alex, what's going on with you? Anyway, what is going on with you, Alex T? You've been a little bit indignant the last couple of times you've been around here. Are you feeling feelings? Do they have anything to do with me, or are they just spilling over from something else? Those are my 2 questions. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and give you 3 questions. Are you feeling feelings? Do you know what kind of feelings they are, and can you tell us? And then, do they have something to do with me, or are they spilling over from something else? Those are my questions for you, Alec T. Of course, I could just be reading you totally wrong, and you're not feeling any feelings. I'm perfectly ready to accept that answer. Well, when F5 Friendstack is pushed on TI, we get triggered since it's in our 8th slot. Triggered to do what? Triggered to go off like a gun? Hi, Rachel.
Hi, Eric Boberic.
What's going on, dog?
Nothing, I'm just getting some tapatio.
Oh, good idea. It'll give a spicy Mexican flavor to your food.
Yeah.
Hence, luka leaky lao. Luki fiki fleeky leaky fluky plow. That's Hawaiian for what's up? Hey, don't pick apart my judgments today. I hate it when you do that, says Eliana Diaz. Eliana Diaz, your name should rhyme with something. Let's see. It kind of rhymes with ballerina Fiat. If Tiffany were to misname you, she'd probably misname you. Ballerina Fiat? You mean Eliana Diaz? Yes. I say from like cucumber town or what? She loves cucumber so much. Yes, Tiffany, she's from Cucumber Town. Were you very social in college age? I did not have a socially successful college experience, really. I was not totally alone, but I struggled to make friends. Whereas in high school, I had a robust friend group. And so it was a bit of a culture shock thing for me in college. And then I just generally didn't much like college. I didn't like the classes, I didn't like the people. They didn't like me. Maybe what you were sensing is an impatience of mine or a need, but what is the need? I don't know the need. I never established with myself what I wanted. Oh. Well, I think your need is probably to do shit, I guess. I don't know. That sounds hard to think about. That sounds hard to think about, like Charlie Linkletter. When was my social awakening? I don't know if I've ever had a social awakening. I'm not sure what that would be. I gradually became more, I guess, palatable. I mean, it's really, YouTube changed my life regarding that stuff. It's like, once I started doing YouTube, I mean, I really, a lot of the beginning was trying to connect with people. I realized that I was not getting nearly enough socialization for me at some point after I started doing YouTube. After I started getting a lot of it, I realized, oh, I want attention. I need people's affirmation and stuff. Gradually over time, I've evolved because I've had all these needs met by YouTube and the various people that I meet around here, and having some kind of legitimacy accordingly. Whether it's appropriate or not, it doesn't really matter. It's it's a kind of legitimacy that I need, and it's different than the kind of legitimacy I got as a debate coach, which was, I mean, it's a zero sum competition sport. So your fellow coaches may respect you, but you're the enemy. It's not a very collegial or friendly environment. Perhaps that played a role in why I carried that kind of approach into typology a bit. I don't know. But I don't think I really did. I think I came back into that approach unavoidably because I discovered that nobody was thinking well about typology. They may have been thinking well about Julianne Parkins. They may have been thinking well about her, but they weren't thinking well about typology. Julianne Parkins is a person that people can think about sometimes. They can think well of her. They can think poorly of her. They can think neutral. I feel neutral about Julianne Parkins. Well, I mean, look, everybody has machine code level SI. At some point, everybody will realize they feel hungry if they get hungry enough, right? And it's the same with every function. Everybody has machine code level whatever. Everybody can recognize this is a pack of cigarettes. They don't need to say, can you just turn it some different directions so I can verify for myself that it in fact is a pack of cigarettes? I'm not sure. Everybody's got enough intuition to look at this and go, yeah, I know what that is. So that's what you call your machine code level NI. Who would you rather have as a supreme leader, an ENTP or an ENTJ? ENTP, of course. But the thing is, it depends on the individual person is what it boils down to. Not being an ENTP is not good enough. Eric, you never in any relevant way irritated me. I think others have this potent impact on me in negative ways, but that never happens here. So sometimes I feel freedom of sorts and speak a thing. Dude, yeah, do you. I'm not criticizing you or whatever. Well, I will say this about mescaline. What I noted the other night is it's wavy. It comes in, it breathes. So I would expect it to come back on again here, gradually meowing. Like, last time the whole thing lasted probably 5 or 6 hours. I took a couple of times. I was able to go to sleep. It was a little weird going to sleep, but, I think I may have underestimated the amount more I needed to take than I did last time. I should probably eat something. It's a really good idea for me to eat something right now. So I think I'm going to go out to the garage and see if we've got a couple of those breakfast burritos left and microwave them. Alright, a little too cold in here. Should turn down the. Turn up, turn down. Could make the air conditioner warmer. Let's just put it that way. I definitely was overcome by a bit of a wave of weirdness going into the garage. So, hopefully, I still have my fingers crossed. What are we? An hour and a half in? So from boyfriends to exercise, SI attempts for me last only so long. That sounds like SE. But whatever, I don't care. I don't want to start any cognitive function arguments. I'm not in the mood for that at all. I do feel cold all of a sudden. That's usually a good sign that psychedelics are coming on. They tend to make me feel cold. Oh, wonderful kitty. Let me help you. Let me help you in your wonderful ways. But Eric, you may say, don't just eat Cheetos and little cake. Don't worry, I'm not going to just eat Cheetos and little cake. I got a couple of breakfast burritos going in the microwave. They're like regular burritos, except filled with breakfast food. Eggs, other stuff. Who knows? I got some Cheetos. I got this little cake. This is a little cake. It's got lemon drizzle flavor on it. It's good. I like it. I don't like flaming hot Cheetos. They're too spicy. And they make me say, ay, 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 mamma mia, spicy, spicy. Recently, I've watched a few episodes of Murders in the Building. Only Murders in the Building on Hulu. Interesting. It's good. It's encouraging to me to see these old guys. You know, Steve Martin was making his first television appearances before I was born. And they're still enjoying their creative inclinations, you know? And there's one joke in there that Martin Short's talking to Nathan Lane, and Dan, do you remember when I sold you on this really bad idea? I was young, I was mad. And Dan's like, you were 58. Wow, that's a long time ago. It was encouraging, you know? Reminded me that those guys are deep into their 70s and still making good art. It's not hilarious, but it's not attempting to be just a comedy, right? It's interesting. It's got some good jokes. It's paced. It's paced a little slow. You know, you don't like Selena Gomez's character so mundane. Well, she's supposed to be kind of a no-nonsense ISTP. They cast her because she could play no-nonsense ISTP while concurrently being inherently SFJ and kind of sweet. You know, she can't shake it. I learned today, much to my shock, that Kiki from Kiki's Delivery Service was played by Kirsten Dunst. What? But just why? Well, I'm 90 minutes in. That's a little disappointing. I think I can correctly assume that it's not going to be substantially stronger than last time, probably. Although I'm only half an hour in from the second cup. I'm not sure how they work together like that. Oh, pretty okay voice actor. I have a lot of clarity sometimes about how a line should sound, you know, like how it should be read. There was one scene in the episode we watched last night or the night before, which Selena Gomez said a line in a certain way. I was like, either Steve Martin or Martin Short coached her on how to say that line right. I just could feel it, you know. I don't know. They knew how they wanted it said. She said it just like that. So, she may have been cast in part because of her coachability. You know, if you're auditioning someone, probably one of the important things you should check for is, now say the line like this. Now say it like this. And make sure they can imitate you, you know? Now say the line like this. Okay, what's the motivation? You're trying to make it sound like what I just did. That's your motivation. No, that's my goal. Gah. I stand corrected, madam, and thank you for your beautiful execution of T.I. on me there. That was wonderful of you. Now that was a truly tragic death, Bill Hartman. I gotta get another Pepsi. Who's DK? Karma's Pimp. Oh, Dear Kristen. I don't know who that is. Um, are you thinking about the 1930s film Top Hat? Does he Jones commit perjury in the trial he's on? Wow. She didn't lie. You could say on the stand, but you shouldn't lie, period. But you definitely shouldn't lie on the stand. Rachel and I watched that movie together. It was on some like great movies of all time lists and stuff. And you know, for its era, it was a pretty snappy little film. But the only I would also say that there's an old movie. I think Rachel and I also watched this one, but I don't remember what it's called. But I will say it is the only message movie I've ever seen that works. It ends with this scene in this black church and this watching of comedy. Its message is, don't try to be political comedians. That's its message. It was fantastic. The end is so powerful, it's amazing. I mean, you know, at the very end, it's not, it goes into like the credits and it's kind of like whatever, but, that movie was really good. Yeah, with Veronica Lake poorly cast. Although she did a good job with it. And do you remember that I think we concluded she was kind of poorly cast, even though she was kind of a tomboyish character. Well, they were right about that, Anonymous Fan Zero. A shocking number of people have no idea what they're talking about. The thing is, research is very reliable, but almost everybody's ability to correctly adjudicate it is not. So, like, I had to do some deep dive research analysis when it came to the issue of whether, in fact, nitrous oxide could and should be correctly attributed to causing or worsening neuropathy symptoms. And there's this research paper / whatever, peer-reviewed journal article attributing the linkage, or supposedly establishing the linkage, but It's not, the thing is, it's not full of lies. If you read it, you realize it's bullshit, the conclusion, for a variety of reasons. Just like the statistics that were given at the beginning of COVID weren't lies. It was 4% of COVID positive people were dying. It's just they only tested the most sick population in the oldest country in the world. So, of course, the fatality numbers are going to be vastly inflated. And they were published without noting this obvious, data processing methodological flaw. I pointed it out and nobody cared. Well, you can't understand it. Nobody can. I mean, what do you mean understand it absolute? Is that like understand it with absolute vodka? I mean, you can't understand it absolute. It's not a closed system. You can only completely understand closed systems. So in that regard, you're right, I guess, but probably for the wrong reason. The correct distinction to make is between open and closed systems. An open system, like a human being, can learn from its previous experiences and mistakes and etc. and adjust and change. If you do a psychological test that tricks people in a way that gets them to reveal something about themselves that they wouldn't have done had they known the full picture, then they won't make that mistake again. So it's like when I talk about typology questions as to whether they work on virgins, half virgins, or sluts, right? Some kind of typology questions work on people who don't know anything about typology at all. Just totally new to cognitive functions. They may know their MBTI type, but they don't know anything about cognitive functions. Some work on half virgins, people who know about typology but haven't heard the question before, or who have maybe heard the question before but don't know enough about typology to know what it's interpreted, what I'm doing with the answers or something. Then there's questions that work on sluts that know about typology, know about cognitive functions, they still can't game it. That's a robust question, right? We have to make that distinction with dealing with people because people are open systems, they're able to adjust. It's not the case that we can only understand things we design, though, right? There's your flaw. It's not the case that people who do design things necessarily understand those things better than other people either. So once something is externally, it is extant as objective data that everybody can access equally, then who understands it best is dependent on, it's a silly question because each individuals understand for their own reasons. Well, I gotta say I'm pretty disappointed in this lack of mescaline an hour and 45 minutes in. Maybe I didn't boil it quite long enough. I mean, I boiled it down a bunch of times, but I probably didn't exactly follow the processes was articulated on the internet. I don't know. I still have outside hope that it's gonna drop like a hot potato, and I'm gonna start really feeling like I'm tripping. But those hopes are fading fast. I got a little bit of head shit going on for sure, but which I recognized from the other night. Yeah, good job for Pelosi. Good job. You know, it's funny. I read this foreign policy headline, Foreign Policy magazine headline referencing Pelosi in China, and I actually jumped to the conclusion that some of the opposite of what it was until I read another headline that corrected me. There's the absence of actually reading articles, right? I don't on shrooms. I did take the San Pedro from a different clump of cacti than I did last time. This could be a lower dosage mescaline individual of San Pedro. I don't know. It's like, it's a lot of hassle to do this, so I guess that's one of the dangers of consuming too little is that you put in all this effort for no good reason if you don't get adequately mescalined out. So, I think, I did get faster at doing it. I mean, I made it myself, you know. I went out and just chopped down a piece of cactus. It was quite a big piece of cactus. And I got a lot of the dark green part. I felt like I got a lot more than I did last time. But I didn't try to eat it all like I did last time. I made it into the tea. And you're supposed to boil it down for a total of 7 hours, I think. Boil it for 3 hours, strain it, put it back in, boil it again. But I don't understand why you strain it because it's not like full of little teeny pieces. It's full of big chunks, so it doesn't really make sense. Anyway. I was hoping for a serious trip tonight. It doesn't look like it's going to be happening. But I do feel weird. No, it definitely takes that into account. What it's trying to do is say, look, we want to eliminate that adaptability variable and determine things about people that do universalize. The reason it fails is because it doesn't begin from a cognitive function perspective. I've made multiple videos about that specific subject. You might want to check them out. There are not very many thorns on it. I've got a video in the making here where I walk through this whole process. In fact, I'll probably make a short video right now to add into that mix of things here. Okay, so it's almost 2 hours since I drank the first half of the liquid and almost an hour since I drank the second half of the liquid. And I'm still not really feeling much of anything. I have heard that it can be a bit of a creeper and then bazinga, but I, having had an experience the other night, am anticipating this is going to kind of fizzle here. So, strike two on the San Pedro, really. We'll see. Maybe I'll try again here. I don't have to go to the desert. This shit grows all around. I mean, it literally is like, there's like 5 houses in my just little block of neighborhood here that have it in their front yard. I just had to find my way to one that was, well, it was like outside the wall of their front yard, and it had like some trash piled next to it. So I figured, like, okay, these people aren't gonna come running out of their house and be like, why are you chopping a piece of our cactus? So I, got a big cactus. No, I mean, I did it like they said. I boiled it down. They said strain it after 3 hours, put it back in, and then boil it again. But it doesn't really make any sense because it's like there's nothing to strain if you're gonna put it back in. It's like big chunks of green stuff that don't fall apart really in the distillation process. I put it on. I mean, I was doing it outside on the grill because I didn't want to bug my dad. He's really sick and he's not gonna like me using the kitchen that long anyway. So, I definitely didn't wing it. I looked it up. I did all the things you're supposed to do. I mean, yeah, there are other strategies that include like a blender and stuff, but or you can dry it and make it into a powder. I mean, the issue ultimately is you've got to condense a lot of cactus down, or else you're not going to consume enough to get off really. And so that's probably why it grows all over the place, and it's not like a thing that's on the radar of authorities and shit like that. The thing is, the problem with psychology is this. Everybody who's doing psychological theorizing is not beginning by answering the question, why am I doing this kind of theorizing? And to what extent is it a projection of my cognitive function bias? And this is a problem not just with psychology, but with philosophy as well. What is the idea of cognitive functions? It's just the idea that we measure a person's being in time and attention. So it gives us a means to actually evaluate something rather than just shoot around in the dark, you know. It describes the process and the units of being. That's what it does. To explain how a type manifests is a rather complicated thing to do, really, because I don't think can you smoke mescaline? I don't think so. I mean, it's true that your habits of attention probably reinforce themselves, right? But at the same time, it seems like an innate configural setup, like hardwired, you know? Obviously, every person is somewhat an expression of their configuration and somewhat an expression of their particulars. So, definitionally, we can't universalize about people's particulars. Any more than we can particularize about Universal Studios. You can't say anything specific about Universal Studios. It's against the law. Universal Studios will sue you. Well, I mean, By whom? For what reason? Like, people are perceived as geniuses primarily because of the work they do, not because of their personality traits. You know, if somebody does work that is broadly perceived as groundbreaking, insightful, muggity meow, then Byoko Kyok says you tried smoking the Amantia muscara. Very possible, but it doesn't taste good. Does it work? Yeah, that's the real question. Does it work? Well, then there's no point. If it doesn't get you high, no point in smoking it, unless it's a cigarette. It's fine to smoke cigarettes even though they don't get you high. My cigarettes are made with a special extra ingredient called love. So when I smoke them, I get love in my heart. I mean, people may perceive careers as linking to intelligence, but that doesn't mean they're going to perceive you as linking to intelligence just because you have that career. Some people might, but like, I probably won't. Oh, yeah, you can't smoke mushrooms. You can't smoke mushrooms and get high from them. That I know already. I've never tried it, but I know it to be the case. That smoking mushrooms destroys the psilocybin. It's also not good to get fungus spores in your lungs. But I'm not sure about powdered cactus mescaline. I'm not sure if it burns or not. Like, I've met multiple medical doctors, and I perceive them as different levels of intelligence and different levels of competent, and those being different things. So I perceive none of them ultimately as particularly competent, although certainly Rachel's psychiatrist is the most competent, and I see only Rachel's psychiatrist as intelligent. The reason I see him as not entirely competent is because he fucked up the diagnosis on the toxic drug interaction. I shouldn't have had to figure out. It's like, come on. I'm not a medical professional. How come I had to be the one to correctly diagnose the situation? You know, so that's why I don't attribute to him full competence. He is very intelligent, but you know, maybe even more intelligent than me. I don't know. The thing is, he was at a disadvantage in our exchanges because I'm able to push for answers to questions that he doesn't have the answer to. How do I define intelligent? Well, I mean, I don't really define it. I don't. I acknowledge that people use the term to refer to people who sound smart or something like that. But people have different meanings when they say the word. IQ is not a meaningful test of anything. There's no reason to test generalized intelligence because it's just a combination of different kind of either subsets of an attention or whatever that arbitrarily are stuck together and called intelligence. Well, I mean, those people are wise. You're wrong to argue against them. I mean, you're not wrong to argue against them, but you're to say that that the correct position is somehow antithetical to cognitive functions is simply wrong and indicative of various cognitive function things. But I need to talk to you specifically to be able to determine that exactly. No, mine's not off the charts. Oh. Thanks for the correction, Kyoko. Mine's like 107. That's what I like to tell people anyway. I took a test one time online and said I had 107. It wasn't a very diverse test. It asked a bunch of all the same kind of question. And it's like not my good kind of question. But no, I'm not especially smart. I'm a very creative thinker, and I'm a very effective parser at the frame level and below as needed, but I'm good at not parsing too deep. And in other words, I'm a master of being correct. But that doesn't really mean is that smart? I don't know. I am an absolute master of being correct. My intuition is pretty good, but hit and miss. I mean, that's probably what you and I think means smart. You know? You and I are going to think being able to ideate out a bunch of possibilities about why what somebody says is wrong, plus being able to figure out by eliminating contradictions what's correct and defensible most of all. See, our kind of intelligence is about defensibility of claim ultimately. We also have good TE in our actual real world behaviors. Like Jeffrey, you do crazy TE shit. Jeffrey designs and has he like designs stuff like keyboards and I don't know. What work are you doing this summer, Jeffrey? Can you explain it to me a bit? He's working for some tech company doing something. I mean, this is the thing. In the status quo, people use the word intelligence to talk about two different things without drawing the distinction between them as they should. They sometimes mean argumentationally robust, and they sometimes mean good at solving problems, actual problems. People say work smarter, not harder. What that means is, well, working smarter, not harder. For me, if I were going to do this cactus thing again, would be get more cactuses and chop them. Only use the easy. If you're willing to be super wasteful, you can get a lot more green stuff a lot faster by only doing the easy parts. Because some pieces of it just fillets off beautifully. And it's not doing anything really. I'm 2 hours in from when I drank the first half of the liquid, and an hour in from when I drank the second half of the liquid, and it's not really doing anything. It's boring. It's like I want to trip, but I'm not, so that sucks. I'm still hopeful that the second cup of it will kick in here. I expect to at least like trip as much as I did the other night, which wasn't much, but was a little bit. Your work is pretty all encompassing on the engineering side of things. I deal with hardware and software type stuff, mostly robotic stuff. So, like, are you submitting to your boss like a design for a component in some larger machine, or what? Are you doing stuff like that? Jeffrey's really impressive. It kind of does help to have a tiger mom, I guess. Jeffrey's a lot more impressive than I ever was at his age. But, you know, he still suffers from that. Yeah, I tripped last time. It just was... oh, Jeffrey, come on. You're in high school. I'm 51 years old. We're both SI types. We're learners, right? You are so far ahead of where I was at your age. It's ridiculous. I mean, you've been hanging out with me for years now. I've been poisoning your soul for years with the truth. You're going to really have a hard time putting up with bullshit. You know? Yeah, I got the correct cactus. I did get a different individual instance of that cactus today. In other words, I took it from a different clump. But I think the basic issue is if you eat all the green part, you get all the mescaline. If you convert it into tea, it's a lot easier to consume, but I boiled it and boiled it and boiled it and boiled it. Boiled it, added more water, boiled it down, added more water, boiled it down, added more water for like 6 hours or something. And I don't know. Supposedly that makes it work, but I guess you really have to do a long boil. And I probably shortcut my boil rather than extra longed it. So maybe if I extra longed it, it would work. I don't know. It's starting to become not a good way to get mescaline, because if I were to have eaten twice as much cactus as I did last time, then my stomach can't handle that much of that shit. And then if I'm gonna make the tea, well, I'm gonna have to harvest a bunch of cactus. It's a big process, you know. I got to make sure it works if I'm gonna do that big process. So it's starting to become me thinking like, okay, unless I can figure out a way to make this really pop, it's not a very enticing way to go. It's not a top shelf drug choice, you know. It's funny talking to Jeffrey about this. He's like, what are you, a junior now? Are you a junior in high school? Did I get up just to do that? Just to put the cat inside? Or did I get up for some other reason? No, I did it outside on the barbecue, actually. That person says chop it up, freeze it overnight, then blend it in a mush, then strain and drink it quickly. Okay, well, that's possible. What do I think of depression and anxiety? I mean, depression's on my mind right now because my dad informed me the other day that he was battling depression. Something he's battled in the past. Depression's a tricky one because it links somewhat to some native quality in the person that makes them prone to depression, and somewhat to actual events going on. My dad's experiencing some kinds of end-of-life depression. I really want to take mushrooms with him. I think that's the thing to take for it, you know. Well, I mean, the thing is, you might think that feeling sad can be controlled by willpower, but you have absolutely no reason to think that your experience, even if that is your experience, generalizes. And it's kind of irresponsible to say, you know. When people are really sad and in bed and just like not even feeling like getting up and doing anything, it's hard to motivate yourself to a change. Sometimes circumstances have to change independently of you, and then things kind of turn around or whatever, you know. It's a tricky topic. As far as anxiety, I don't know what anxiety is exactly. I guess I know what dread is. I guess I know what feeling stressed out about stuff is. But it's always because there's something, or usually because there's something specific to feel stressed out about. I didn't have to go very far at all. I just went down to Doherty Road. Just past the McDonald's. But there, I've identified many clumps within my just normal driving around range that I could potentially access. What did I do for fun when I was your age? I mean, I partied. I drank and did drugs and stuff. I wasn't as much of a partier as I am now. But like, by which I mean, I didn't really smoke pot in high school. I mostly drank on the weekends, and I do psychedelics sometimes. I took a good amount of the LSD I took when I was in high school. I did LSD multiple times in high school. Ever watched wrestling? Yeah, I used to watch wrestling when I was a kid. I watched it when it was during the Iron Sheik, Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, Randy Macho Man Savage, Rowdy Roddy Piper, all of those people. That's when I watched it. Were drugs that easy to come by? Well, not really. Yeah, okay. See, well, back when I was in high school, the Grateful Dead were still touring. Every time they came to LA, you could go to a Dead concert and get whatever you wanted. So we just drive to the Dead concert and get acid there. That's why we ended up taking acid, probably. Is because it was so easy to get at Dead concerts. It's like, oh, a Grateful Dead concert, most people who went there never even went inside to the show. They just went there to the parking lot to buy and sell drugs. But I also did various things with my friends. We went to places. We went to museums. By the time I was 16, I had a car, and I had a lot more freedom than you do, you know. And I had friends equivalent. I had a couple older friends who had a car for a couple years, you know. So the police don't care. Well, I mean, yeah, you obviously you looked out for the cops, but I I I never got busted. The thing is, it's hard for the cops to bust drug dealers because there's no victim, nobody's complaining. All they got to do is meet somewhere in private. They're both getting what they want. There's no crime committed. So how are they going to bust people? Even if they know that there's drug dealers going down in the Grateful Dead concert, if they're walking around in uniforms, people just duck back behind them, yeah, and reappear, and then the cops just got his suspicion. And then, of course, that's when you end up with, like, undercover cops and stuff like that. But, you know, I've always been lucky anywhere. I'm, like I've said before, the universe set my life to easy mode for some reason. And, you know, I don't know what it is about drugs and stuff. Like, my daughter's not into them. I can't convince my daughter to do mushrooms with me, even. She has her Adderall prescription and, like, rarely takes it. I ended up, like, mooching Adderall off of her every month, you know. So, it's not like I learned it from you, Dad, or whatever. Always like, well, come on. Do drugs with your dad. She's like, no, I don't want to do drugs. I'm like, come on, you square. She's like, no, I don't want to do drugs with you. Fine. Be that way, you square. Eric, would I fight with Jay-Z? I don't want Beyonce. Who wants Beyonce? No. I'm just, I'm kind of doing family stuff right now, I guess. You know, my mom has stopped eating, and she has in her legal documents no feeding tubes. So, we're coming up near the end here, you know? And it's all kind of hit home yesterday with, or I guess it was yesterday. But, you know, my dad's depressed, and I feel like, you know, I need to be a good son and stuff. Who's Damien? My dad has bad COVID right now, or at least he feels really sick and looks really sick, and that is not something I've seen in a long time. My dad, you know, even when he gets sick, he just fucking pushes through. So he's both depressed and sick. But I think he's less depressed now because the stuff with my mom happening and her getting taken off to the um, hospital from the nursing home, sending her to the hospital, and her getting lost in the mix and all that stuff. Uh, well, it went along with my dad's talking to me about his emotional state, and it was a pretty depressing conversation. But I think I can. Well, I think I need to be just understand that for the next year or so, my primary considerations need to be just family stuff, and it doesn't mean I won't do other things. It just means um, I'm settling in to a slower pace of life and more attention to my dad. And I can't even visit my mom, so I find my goddamn vaccination card. But if I can't find it, I'll go back to CVS and they'll print you out another one, I think. So I also have scheduled a YouTube party on August 18th, probably. No, it's not guaranteed yet, but I'm thinking probably, yeah. And so, but there's also, on the 14th, I might be going down to the desert with my dad, me and Rachel, my dad, assuming he's better. But we got some things coming up. And yada yada. It's not so sad, Alec T. Not really. I mean, if he wants to come over to my house and chat with me, that's fine. I can correct him if he wants. We can make a video together if he wants to. I don't think he really wants me to. Well, I'll correct him about cognitive functions for one thing. And the big five. I don't have any siblings. I'm an only child. My dad thinks I have a sibling, my daughter. He treats us both like his kids. No, I can't do that. I'm not going to let him do that. Oh, sure, Jordan Peterson, we can talk about evolution if you want. You don't, but we can if you want to. And oh, sure, Jordan Peterson, we can talk about personality if you want. You don't want to talk about that either. Oh, sure, Jordan Peterson, we can talk about politics, and I could scold you roundly for your failures, but you don't want that to happen either. So, chances are Jordan Peterson's not going to stop by my house, and thus I'm not going to bother planning much about what I'm going to say to him. I don't play that game, Mac Tolliver. I'm a correctist. I'm correct about each specific policy matter on its merits as contextualized by reality. Jordan Peterson appears to be an ENTJ. But I've never typed the guy, so. A perfect type for an ENTP to marry. Rachel Appaloosa. I don't know who Jake is. But too bad, all you other beans peas, I got her. Yeah. Got some ass I pour. But that's true, Space Between. You got me this time. Not a lot of logic in that one. That's just personal bias all the way through. And that's what love is. It's the ultimate personal bias. So, I'm really just meowing about this masculine. It's making me mad. It's basically saying to me, hey Eric, obviously you need to go buy mushrooms. Because I don't like not being on drugs when I expect to be on drugs, you know? It's like frustrating. I wonder if it's too late to get mushrooms right now. Let me text the guy. It's not that late in drug dealer hours. It's only 10:19. He's young. He's probably still awake. Right. It's not that late in drug dealer hours. Now, granted, he's not like a speeder or coke dealer. They'd just be getting up. If he were a speeder or coke dealer, he'd just be waking up right now. He's a mushrooms dealer, so we'll see. Well, I mean, me explaining that 2 times 2 is 4 because you just add them together is wrong, even though it's the right answer, right? People can explain things poorly all the time. I mean, the fact that idiots express idiocy about things that they don't understand is not a reason to doubt the veracity of the thing they don't understand. OBVS. What could be worse than not having some drugs when you expected some drugs to kick in? Nothing is worse than not having some drugs when you expected some drugs to kick in. Oh, I want to do some drugs. Yes, I want to do some drugs. Can I do any drugs now? I just want drugs to do. Can they be any drugs now? No, I want psychedelic drugs. Probably. It's weird. I earlier today, I went to Kmart, which is not Kmart. Okay, it's like a Chinese supermarket, and I bought a pot to do the stew on the grill, and as soon as I got home, I had all these pots advertised to me by Google. That was kind of weird. But maybe they kept track of what I'm buying or something, Please, sir, have you any drugs? It's a good way to get drugs. If you're a blind British orphan boy, it doesn't work when you look like me. How much does personality type manifest as behavior in everyday life? It's not quite like that, per se. I mean, we can all predictably anticipate you to parse things the way you're parsing them. Asking questions, making distinctions, etc., And you'll consistently parse whatever it is in that way, even if it's not appropriate for you to parse it. So, in talking about behaviors, you've got to say things like, well, when presented with somebody making these kind of arguments, you are predictably going to respond either out loud or in your head like this. That's how you can. That's how you can articulate behavioral links, Who's they? I mean, it's absolutely the case that there's a natural native way to parse. You either parse via your own feelings or by introverted thinking, which is argumentational defensibility, as a conscious approach. Now, it is possible for you to learn to game a test that tests something that's a particular skill-based expression of the function. So it's possible to game the TI test to a certain extent, but it's not actually possible for any TI polar person to game it. If I do a really thorough, robust test, it will come out that they don't know, they can't do it. You can't learn how to. To the extent that they were to learn how to, they'd learn a workaround from that kind of attention. It wouldn't be an expression of that attention. So you're wrong. Well, some parts of IQ tests are TI. Verbal reasoning skills are TI kind of skills. But spatial reasoning is more of a TE, SE kind of thing. And, like visual pattern recognition and different kinds of visual pattern stuff is another. IQ tests include a lot of different specific skills. And the problem with an IQ test is there's no reason to conclude that combination of those particular skills actually comprises some thing that objectively doesn't exist. Nobody possesses a generalized IQ. That's not how attention works. Yeah, well, I'm not interested in doing that right now. Usually people text back pretty quick if they're going to. So I'm losing hope on the mushrooms as well. At that point, I might as well just go to bread, No, I've never been to Burning Man. I'm not a hippie, Boba Fett. I don't like stupid hippie shit. I'm making some coffee. It's like for hippies. It's as though their whole reason for being is to take stuff that's actually cool and make it super gay. It's frustrating, to somebody who tries to be genuinely actually interested in cool stuff, and then hippies get a hold of it and make it super gay. Anonymous Random Zero, will you just stop with your fucking nonsense pulling shit out of your ass? That's not how you think well. You're doing a poor job of thinking. I explained something to you, right? You don't even respond to my explanation. I explained something. When I give an explanation, there are warrants. There's a claim, right? You're not even worth talking to. You're going to just say stupid ass fucking shit. Or explain something. Like, as a matter of fact, I've got hundreds of typing sessions where I've asked the same kinds of questions. I can articulate that people respond in these kinds of ways, and then some people have this shocking blind spot, and are dramatically less capable of executing simple questions consistently, even if they know in advance sometimes, It's quite robust. It's more robust than anything else in psychology by a fucking parsec, So just shove it up your ass. You need to watch a bunch of my explanation videos before you come in here talking at your ass, right? You're talking to the person who's correct about typology. You're saying shit about what other wrong people say about it, and trying to say, therefore I can dismiss it. You're here. Watch the 8 Pillars of Defensible Typology video first, okay? If you're not capable of understanding things that are conceptually built theories, like relativity, rather than empirically determined generalities, like the speed of something falling from the sky towards Earth or something, then you're going to probably have some resistance to it. If you're Ni4th, TI polar or something, you're going to have some inherent resistance to it. I don't know what type you are, but the point is, you're intentionally not suited to this, obviously. But I don't want to fucking argue with you. You're just a waste of my time and energy. I'm done. I'm going to do other things now. It's like, don't you have anything better to do with your time than be totally unqualified to critique what I'm saying and critique it anyway? It's not like there aren't good critiques. But you aren't within a million miles of a good critique. You're just pulling shit out of your ass because you're stupid as fuck. Good night. I mean, I've dealt with people who made good critiques before and who actually say things, and you're just fucking dumb. That's just all there is to it.